Imagine you are starving, surrounded by a field filled with thousands of tiny seeds. Food seems to be everywhere, but almost none of it looks worth eating. You pull a handful of wild grain from the grass. The seeds are tiny, hard, and wrapped inside tough outer layers. You try chewing them anyway. It is not much of a meal. Yet ancient humans kept gathering these frustrating little seeds, and somehow they eventually turned them into something completely different. But doing that required an absurd amount of work. First, people had to collect enough wild grain to make the effort worthwhile. Then the useful seeds had to be separated from stalks and unwanted plant material. Even after all that work, the grains were still hard to eat. So humans tried something simple. They smashed them with stones. Heavy pounding broke the tough grains into smaller, more manageable pieces. But coarse fragments were only the beginning. Rubbing grain against a grinding stone could crush it much finer. After repeated grinding, the hard seeds became something resembling primitive flour. Now the food looked completely different. But dry flour was hardly a meal either. Adding water transformed the powder into a thick paste or simple dough. That mixture could be flattened into a thin piece by hand. Then came the transformation that mattered most: heat. Placed on a hot stone, the wet mixture slowly hardened and browned. For the first time, those stubborn wild seeds had become something resembling bread. And this raises a strange question: why go through all that trouble before farming even existed? That question becomes stranger when we look at what archaeologists actually found. In northeastern Jordan, a prehistoric site called Shubaika 1 preserved an extraordinary clue. Inside ancient fireplaces, archaeologists discovered tiny pieces of charred food. At first glance, the blackened fragments looked almost meaningless. But under a microscope, their internal structure revealed something unexpected. The fragments contained processed wild cereals and other plant ingredients. Some had been ground, mixed with water, and cooked into thin, flat pieces. In other words, these people were making something remarkably similar to flatbread. Then came the real surprise. The remains were roughly 14,400 years old. That places this bread thousands of years before established agriculture in the region. These people were not harvesting grain from carefully planted fields. They were gathering wild plants growing naturally across the landscape. Every useful handful had to be found and collected from the wild. That made bread far more labor-intensive than it would later become, yet someone still considered the effort worthwhile. This turns the familiar story of bread upside down. We usually imagine farming came first. People grew wheat, harvested huge quantities, and then discovered bread. But Shubaika suggests the sequence was different. Humans were processing wild grain into bread before they became farmers. So agriculture cannot fully explain why bread was invented. If anything, bread presents us with a bigger mystery. Why were hunter-gatherers investing so much effort in these tiny wild seeds? And could their desire for foods like bread eventually help change how humans lived? To understand why grain mattered so much, we need to travel even further back. At Ohalo 2, archaeologists uncovered evidence beside the Sea of Galilee. A grinding stone still carried traces of wild cereal starch across its ancient surface. The site is roughly 23,000 years old. That's long before farming. Bread had not appeared yet, but humans were already processing wild grain, and the trail goes even deeper. Inside an Italian cave, ancient grinding tools preserved traces of processed wild oats. Those traces are more than 30,000 years old. Humans had been experimenting with starchy plants for an astonishingly long time. But why? Why spend so much effort crushing and grinding these tiny, stubborn seeds? The answer was hidden inside them. Each grain contained valuable energy locked behind a tough, protective structure. Eaten raw, that energy was harder for the human body to access. Grinding shattered the grain and exposed much more of the starch inside. Then heat changed it again. Cooking the wet grain mixture made those starches easier for humans to digest. Suddenly, these frustrating little seeds became a much more useful source of energy. Bread was more than food, it was a technology for unlocking calories. But grain had another advantage. Fresh fruit could spoil surprisingly quickly after being gathered from the wild. Fresh meat also had to be eaten or preserved before it spoiled. Dry grain was different. Protected from moisture and pests, it could last far longer. For mobile humans, stored grain meant valuable energy could wait until later. Dry grain could preserve valuable calories long after the plants themselves disappeared. And bread turned those calories into food that was easier to carry and eat. Energy could now travel. But gathering enough wild grain still demanded enormous effort from entire communities. Harvesters had to search the landscape for scattered patches of ripe grasses, and those patches eventually disappeared. Imagine finding an unusually rich patch of wild grain close to camp. What if you could make it grow there again? People could see seeds falling onto soil and later producing new plants. Eventually, some seeds may have been scattered deliberately near frequently used camps. Months later, useful grain could appear much closer to where people lived. That changed the equation. Less searching could mean a more predictable supply of valuable grain, and predictability became increasingly useful when communities valued grain-based foods. The more grain people wanted, the more attractive deliberate cultivation became. Then comes the bigger question. What if farming didn't create bread? What if the desire for foods like bread helped make cultivation worthwhile? A reliable grain supply could provide far more material for grinding into flour, and more flour meant bread no longer depended entirely on scattered wild harvests. Productive grain patches suddenly became worth protecting. People could clear competing plants, giving their preferred grasses more room to grow. They could also save some of the best seeds instead of eating everything. Those saved seeds could be planted when the next growing season arrived. Without realizing the consequences, humans were beginning to reshape the plants around them. But reshaping the landscape was only the beginning. Humans were also changing the grain itself. Wild wheat had evolved to spread its seeds without any human help. When ripe, many wild seed heads naturally shattered and dropped their grains. For the plant, this worked perfectly. For a human harvester, it was frustrating. Some valuable seeds fell away before people could collect them. But occasionally, a wheat plant behaved differently. Its ripe seeds remained attached to the stalk instead of scattering onto the ground. That made the plant much easier to harvest, and those were exactly the stalks humans were more likely to collect. Some harvested seeds were saved for planting rather than immediately eaten. Generation after generation, this simple choice began changing the plants around human settlements. Wheat that held its seeds became increasingly common in cultivated fields. But there was a strange trade-off. These plants were becoming worse at spreading their own seeds naturally. The better wheat became for humans, the more it began depending on them. Humans had domesticated wheat. But the relationship worked both ways. Fields needed people to clear competing plants and protect the growing crop. Someone had to remain nearby while the grain slowly matured. Then harvest season demanded intense work at exactly the right time. Once gathered, the grain still needed threshing, grinding, and careful storage. People had changed wheat to fit human needs. Now humans were changing their lives to fit wheat, and that transformation would reach far beyond the field. And one of the biggest changes happened around the grinding stone. Every harvest produced piles of grain that still could not become bread by itself. Someone had to grind it, again and again. Workers knelt beside heavy stones, pushing grain beneath them for hours. The motion was simple, but repeating it every day took a physical toll. Some ancient skeletons preserve traces of this repetitive strain. Bread demanded labor long before it reached the fire. And settled communities needed that work repeated harvest after harvest. The convenient food had created an inconvenient routine. But then something strange happened to dough. Imagine leaving a wet mixture of flour and water sitting for hours. When you return, the dough no longer looks the same. Tiny bubbles have appeared inside it. The dough has grown. To ancient eyes, something invisible seemed to be changing their food. They could not see yeast living inside the fermenting mixture. They had no idea microorganisms existed, but they could observe what happened. Leave dough long enough, and fermentation could make it lighter and full of bubbles. Baking that fermented dough produced bread unlike the dense flatbreads before it. Then someone discovered an even more useful trick. A piece of fermented dough could be saved and mixed into the next batch. The new dough would begin changing too. Humans had learned to control invisible life without even knowing it existed. But bread was about to create a completely different kind of power. A successful harvest could produce more grain than one family could immediately eat, and unlike many fresh foods, dry grain could remain edible for months or even years. Food could wait. That simple fact changed everything. Surplus grain could be stored inside baskets, pits, and eventually large communal granaries. For the first time, yesterday's harvest could help feed people far into the future. But a full granary created a new question. Who controlled the food inside? Someone had to guard the grain and decide when stored supplies were distributed, and once grain accumulated, some communities could possess far more than others. Food was becoming wealth. But stored wealth created another problem. People needed to know exactly how much they had. Grain could be measured, counted, and recorded as it entered or left storage. Someone now had to keep track. In early complex societies, administrators increasingly recorded goods, rations, and agricultural supplies. Simple marks and tokens could represent quantities without displaying the actual grain. Eventually, accounting systems became far more sophisticated. In Mesopotamia, some of the earliest writing was closely connected to administration and economic records. A humble crop had helped create something that could be counted, stored, and controlled. And control over stored food could become control over people. Workers could receive measured grain or bread as payment for their labor. In ancient Egypt, bread and beer became everyday staples for large working populations. Producing them at scale required fields, storage, bakers, and organized distribution. Bread was no longer merely something a family made beside a fire. In larger settlements, specialized bakeries could produce bread for people who never grew grain themselves. Bread had become part of an organized system connecting farmers, workers, bakers, and rulers, and the idea did not remain in one civilization. Wherever people cultivated starchy crops, they discovered their own ways to grind and cook them. Different grains produced different breads. Wheat became flatbreads and loaves across much of Europe and Western Asia. Elsewhere, communities transformed local grains into foods adapted to their own environments. The recipes changed, but the basic idea survived. Grind something starchy, add liquid, apply heat. Again and again, humans discovered variations of the same solution. But remember where this story began. A hungry human once faced tiny wild seeds that hardly seemed worth the effort. Those seeds were difficult to collect, unpleasant to chew, and frustrating to process, so humans changed them. They crushed grain, cooked it, planted it, and selected the plants they preferred. Over generations, wild grasses became crops increasingly dependent on human care. But humans were changing too. Fields encouraged people to remain near the same land for longer periods. Harvests tied human work to the rhythm of growing seasons. Stored grain created possessions that could accumulate beyond one day's needs. Those stores could be counted, guarded, distributed, taxed, and controlled. A solution to hunger had quietly become part of the machinery of civilization. We changed wild grass to fit our lives. Then we changed our lives to fit it. Humans invented bread. Then bread reinvented us.